Well, hello there and welcome to Travels with Geordie. If this is your first visit, my name is Peter Knowles and I live on this classic Ed Monk designed wooden motor cruiser here in Victoria, British Columbia, along with the loving memory of my pup Geordie, all while fixing it up for some pretty ambitious cruising someday. If that's the sort of thing you might find interesting, please consider sticking around and subscribing. I'd love to have you. And good morning. Well, the day starts with assessing the wood, trying to figure out if there's much in the way of end splits, determining how it was sawn, finding out what defects in it, and figuring out how long a usable section we have so that I can decide how much of the existing garbage plank to remove. Okay, let's get this wood off. Alright, so the planks are 13 and change inches wide and 13 and change feet long. First thing I'm going to do is just zing the ends off so I can have a really good look at the grain and see what we're dealing with. Okay, let's have a look. So it's pretty clear what's going on here. It's a little easier to see here. So here you can see the growth rings, and because they're reasonably perpendicular to the plank, that's a relatively nice sawn. It's not quite quarter sawn, but at least it's not flat sawn. It looks really quite nice. The center of a tree would have been, oh, I don't know, here somewhere. This was a very big tree. So that's looking really good. We have some defects around the outside, so definitely this is my side of the plank. The other one, likewise, you can see the mess here. Again, these are sister planks, as you can see. That growth ring just matches that one. Yeah, it looks good. This is also, you can see the cuts here. I mean, not the cuts, but the growth rings. Looks like a good plank. Again, this is my side of the plank to work with. Nice. Let's look at the other end. You folks are looking straight into the sun, but it's pretty much as I expected. Very nice. There's a little bit of a defect here, but I don't think I'm going to use the full length of the plank. Very good. No significant end splits, so I can use almost the whole plank. Generally, very, very good. No natural cupping, twist, warp, crook, whatever it is. So these are very nice pieces of wood. Now I'll try and determine how much of the existing garbage I'm going to remove, and there's some complications around that. Okay, I've actually turned the soaker hoses off so it won't be actually raining on me too much while I do this. This is the aft end of the port side garbage plank. In a perfect world, I would love to cut it back one more bay so I had absolutely fresh wood to work with. But there's a problem with that, and I'll show you when we get inside the boat. But this is really not in bad shape. This is really quite a happy plank right here. So for now, I'm going to move forward from here and see what 13 feet will do for us. All right, son, so this through hull is basically just before the bulkhead at the front of the wheelhouse. After that, after about here, it is the forecastle. So I could come ahead, look, I'm only at 10 feet. I could come ahead quite a bit, although I don't want to go too far because I'm starting to put twist into the plank. Not only that, the plank's in good shape here, so there's no real reason to. I'd like to look inside and figure out where the best spot is. So I now know I have enough wood that I can, if possible, cut that existing butt block and move it back a bay or so, and move into the forecastle a bay or so. So let's look inside. This might not be as happy. Okay, for reference, here we are looking into the wheelhouse, and we've come through into the aft cabin. We can see the stuffing box, and these are the butt blocks, the same on both sides. I think you can see them, that I referred to outside. That is the aft end of the existing garboard. Now, if I was to try and move aft, I get into a funny situation because I'm here underneath the stuffing box. Now there's a little old widget I wouldn't mind getting rid of, but I don't think I'm going to do that because this is going to be an awkward place to work. I can't get full height here because this is where the keel, that's the keel here. It's got a step in it and then an extra timber above that. This is a very awkward place to work. And further back than that, there's a totally different relationship to the way the the keel works. It's much wider. It's got this extra step on it. So I believe the original shipwrights decided that this was the last suitable bay for a butt block. As a result, it's where I'm going to end it. Yeah. Okay, so here in the forecastle, for reference, the first bay has the bilge pumps in it, and I do want to be able to retain bilge pumps in this location because of easy access, and it's the lowest point of the boat. The next bay forward has some sort of dingus in it, which I would love to abandon. It also has concrete in it, by the way, which I'd have to break out. And this appears to be the only keel bolt I've ever found in the boat. Anyway, further forward, this bay is relatively tidy. It does have concrete in it, but not much. I can easily take that out. So this, I believe, is my best candidate for the butt block forward. Now, it's not ideal because we're starting to get some twist, but I think I'm going to have to cope with that. All right. So that seam is this bay right here. There's just beginning to be some twist in the hull there. Not really that much. If I look from here aft, I mean, it is tolerable. But I don't want to be in a position where I'm having to steam bend these. So it may be I stop one bay aft. Not that that makes all that much difference. It would be here instead. The only problem with it is that there's a little dingly thing on the other side, but it may end up being on the other side of the butt joint, the part that's cut out. So there's this thing here. Yes, actually I'll be cutting right here so that this thing would be lost. I'm going to ponder on this a little bit. I'm going to go back in and break out that concrete in that second pit. This is way too much information. I'll show you what I do when I figure out what I'm going to do. Not a very convenient spot to work. You know, I think this merits safety glasses. Nice. That's a substantial piece of concrete. Okay, last two big chunks. Well, this has some implication as to where I'm going to be able to put frames in the future. Because of course I am going to rebuild this bay as well in time, but I think I'll just have to cope with that as if these butt blocks were here in the first place. Okay, I'm feeling pretty good about this. Okay, well, as I was cleaning this up, I noticed something. Yeah, that big gap. Well, this was the bay I was proposing I was going to terminate in. So I broke out all the concrete of the next bay forward. Yeah, big gap. Next bay forward out of that, the gap is finally closing. This is the beginning of the 4-foot. I don't know what that particular piece of wood is called. Leo would know. It's the beginning of it becoming much heavier timbers at the front. Okay, I'm sure you can't see any of this stuff. What you can see is the big gaps. Okay. Okay, I've been pacing for 15 minutes. I pretty much have to go to that forwardmost bay and use 12 feet of the new plank. I'm pretty confident that I can get 6 inches off each end of that. In fact, I'm very confident. The plank is good. I could probably use it right where I've cut it now. The planks are not the problem. The twist is the problem. And maybe I have to steam just the end, the last feet or so of this plank, which I'll do by bag steaming. I have some bubble wrap. You've seen me steam some sapelli before with that. If I can't just press it up into place, I just wrap it right here and bubble wrap it. Anyway, we'll do that if we get to that. Ugh. Honestly, just being back in the bilge, breaking out concrete, kind of sent me back to an unhappy place. I can't wait to get the folks fixed up on this boat. It's funny, everything becomes the new baseline. I thought the forecastle was in pretty good shape. It sort of is, but okay, so this is the bay in question. I put a piece of masking tape through from inside to make sure I got the right bay and to get my proper centering between the floors and the frames. If this isn't nerve-wracking I don't know what is. It's a straight enough line for me. That's all I can do with that saw. I believe that is through. Okay, as you can see, I've put a stand under it to keep it from collapsing, gosh forbid, because I've already pounded it all along the way. We'll see how easily this comes out. Okay, and it's out. Oh, there. It is so weird to be looking into the inside. It's just so weird. Okay, let's do the other one. I want to get them both off first and let them dry out, because I'm going to want to be able to work on this planking bevel a little bit, caulking bevel. Actually, it seems very clean right here. Very nice, very nice. Okay. You know, it's not a bad little saw, but when you're used to a real recip, this is pretty anemic. Okay. Well, there's a testament to the holding power of these galvanized screws. Because I'm coming a bay further forward than I thought, I didn't remove all the screws. Okay. Whew. That is a very strange experience. Now, if you remember, there were a few screws I couldn't get out, so I isolated them with that hole saw, and I'll just remove them with vice grips. It is so weird to be under the boat looking up at my shiny new Beta Marine. Oh God. At least my notches were exactly the right size. Might have actually been a little conservative, but no harm. Let's get this old butt block out at the aft end here. Your hand isn't a hammer, but that certainly came out easily. None of the original fasteners were doing anything, as is the norm. Okay. This plank is actually in remarkably good shape, so I'm happy to be replacing this butt block at this location. If this isn't a bit disconcerting, holy mackerel. Okay, so I'm just cleaning up the caulking bevel here. It's actually in remarkably nice shape. Very nice, actually. Okay, this is good news, sort of. The reason there's a great big gap here is because the plank is sprung a little bit. So I just have to refasten that along here, and that closes that gap up quite reasonable. But the problem is there's still all kinds of junk and mostly concrete jammed in up there. So I gotta go up and break out the last of the concrete in that last bay. Okay, so it's time to get on with the spiling, which is the process of creating a template for the plank that's going to go in. I don't just measure it. Those of you familiar with wooden boat construction would know all I'm talking about. I've never spiled before. I've watched all the videos, mostly from tips from a shipwright, etc. And I'm going to use a modified version of spiling, because these planks are very straight with very little undulation. So, well, just follow along. Basically, it starts with a batten, which I'm going to rip out of this door skin and hot glue together with a splice, and that becomes the basic structure of the spiling batten. And then how I work from there is going to be ever so slightly different. Okay, apparently this is the basic fundamental tool of the spiling. Never used a hot glue gun before. I thought they were kind of crafty. Anyway, cool. Let's get geared up for it. Okay, so the plank is going to be 144¼ inches long, roughly. So I'm going to make the spiling batten that's going to fit inside 144 inches long. So I have, you know, most of the space, and I can glue on my various witness pieces. Now, the plank is very, very straight. It does get a little bit wider. It goes from 9 inches to 9 3/4 inches. But I think that's pretty symmetrical. So I've made the batten 8 inches wide so it will comfortably fit inside. And I'm going to make this 144 inches long, which, if I just had a pencil, if this completely changes my life, I will be utterly stunned. So this is how much overlap I have. If I glue that right on there and keep it straight along the plank, I will have created a nice batten. Now, I don't know much about the characteristics of this hot glue, so it might kind of get ahead of me. Who knows here? Okay, let's lay some of this stuff down here. I don't know how long it stays hot. About that long, I bet. Well, that was completely ineffective. Obviously, I didn't make contact before it hardened. It seems to be relatively horrible. I guess you have to do smaller areas. That being a phenomenal failure, I'm going to try a different approach. Basically, I'm going to clamp this side down. I'm going to pump a lot of fresh hot glue in on this side and splat that down quick while it's still really hot. And how long do I do this for? And then transfer my clamp to where I've glued and do the same thing in here for as much of this as I think I can get away with. Okay. Professional hot gluer that I am. Okay, let's see how my hot glue escapades worked out. This seems to be a solid piece of... Yeah, excellent. Okay. I'm winning. Alright, so here goes my first actual witness block. And obviously I need more hot glue. This hot glue business is not turning out to be so hot. Take two. Perhaps I bought the wrong hot glue gun. I'll have to pull over the snap-on truck and see if I can get a snap-on hot glue gun. I think my hot glue days are over. Okay, now purists are cringing. This is not proper spiling. Proper spiling would be to use a batten like this and use a little spiling block and mark off all the way along the bottom, or possibly use a compass and put two intersecting arcs, or a number of systems that are very accurate and time tested. Now, I think a standard set of spiling system is fine, but I think you have an opportunity where you have a very simple plank to do a very simple spiling, which is what I'm doing here. So what I'm doing, I'm relying on the stiffness of the 8-inch wide to be the, you know, the baseline and keep the plank straight. But these little 2-inch ones are far more flexible, so I'm quite confident that I can very accurately create a witness mark by just now stapling these onto the main batten, giving me a very accurate template. The nice thing about this version of it, by the time I'm done, I take it off and it's simply trace it onto the plank rather than having to respile or despile back onto the plank. So this should be much quicker. Okay, I've laid it out and I've tacked it, stapled it down, and time to trace. Now the biggest objection to this system would be that the witness pieces are one thickness up, but it's 1/8 of an inch, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to nail this pretty close. Excellent. Okay, now I have no shame in cutting, leaving the line, giving myself a little bit of dry fit opportunity. I can always put the power plane on it and just clean it up ever so slightly if it's tight. So let's just get going here. Oh! Good time for a grilled cheese sandwich. One of the things I want to learn with this test fit is if I'm going to be able to put it in without steaming it. Okay. You know, I could have followed my original line. I think it would have been perfect. Absolutely perfect. From here, it's going to be no problem to pull that twist into it. So that's good news. So I just gotta plane it back to the line and trust my line. I meant to mention there is tons of bevel in this joint already, so I'm not gonna add, well, I don't think there's tons, but there is enough on both sides. So I'm not gonna put any caulking bevel in the plank that I'm making because basically there's enough bevel here already. Got the twist into it. It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. Okay, let's fasten it and do another one. I love this saw. Well, I didn't show you too much of the second plank because it's basically more like the first. First one went beautifully, and well, the second one went equally beautifully. Absolutely thrilled. All the caulking bevels and reveals and seams are perfect. Really pleased. Got to finish fastening and caulk it, and holy moly, I can paint the bottom. Well, I can say planking, I was intimidated. I really was. I've cut a lot of very expensive wood in very complex shapes, but somehow there was always more wood, or there was more time, or anyway, the stakes were just so high here. But I feel a lot better. I want to plank the whole bloody thing now. No. Anyway, no harm planking in the future. Shower, pub, definitely pub. Returning to the bulkhead of reality, install garboard planks. Gone. So thrilled. I mean, what's left? Everything here is easy. Bilge pump, paint the bottom, clean the stern gear, caulk and pay the garboard, which I'm hoping to get done today. Batteries. This is going so great. I'm over the hill. See you tomorrow.